So futures thinking is really the study of change. What is happening? What might happen? What are the possible futures, the preposterous futures, and the plausible futures that may play out? And what we do when we are thinking about the future is look at some of the things that are happening at the moment. And what that might mean is looking at some things that maybe don't exist everywhere. There's the famous quote, which you may have heard by William Gibson, who is a sci-fi writer, of the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. The future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. So what we will often see is these little kind of like blips on the horizon or blips on the scanner of things that are changing, examples of where new ways of living or working or whatever the topic is are happening already right now, but they're kind of happening at the edges. They're happening underground, they're happening in subcultures, they're happening in kind of research labs or in kind of other quirky places. So this is really interesting. And this is where I love to kind of play and sort of look for these kind of changes. And we often think about this idea of like looking into multiple horizons with futures. And what that means is we've got our first horizon, which is kind of the what was or what is, what's happening now. And then we move into the second horizon, which is the what might, based on things that are probably a little bit more obvious. We're probably reading about those on the ABC, in the New York Times. We're probably seeing them on social media, and it's becoming slightly more mainstream. And then when we get into our third horizon, that's the what if. That is the stuff that in now, so if you look at this little gray bar, so if you look into the now, you can't really see a lot of that happening. You've got to really kind of look closely and find those kind of funny, quirky, interesting places where things are happening. So if we think about that in some different kind of different in the oh, if I can just ask everyone to go on mute, that would be amazing. Thank you. So then when we think about some things like that happening in the future of friendship, relationships, and all of those good things, here's a couple of quirky things happening. So in a moment, you'll be able to add a pin to the one that makes you go, ooh, which I've stolen from my friend Simon. So like the song, things that make you go, ooh, anyway, it doesn't matter. So there's a bunch of different signals of change happening at the moment around friendship relationships. So number one is this one. You may have seen the quite dystopian advert for this that happened, came out a couple of months ago, for the friend, the AI friend. Things that looks like an AirTag in that top left-hand corner. You wear it around your neck. It's a little pendant. It basically hears everything you're doing and sends you an SMS. So you connect with it. It connects to you or it talks to you via your phone, via a text, but it is always listening. And this is also a really interesting development around always on or always kind of always active listening technology as well, which has multiple other kind of weird and wonderful and dystopian potential futures, possible futures that may play out. So the friend, and it was called the friend, you wear it around your neck, it texts you. So for example, in the advert for it, if you may, some of you may have seen this, they had a woman who'd gone to get a burrito, I think it was, and she was eating the thing, and the friend pendant had obviously heard her order the burrito. So the friend texted her saying, "Hey, how was the burrito?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's delicious," and yeah, that kind of thing. So super weird, super strange, and quite a bleak, I guess, signal of what is the current state of friendship, that people are thinking about, actually, I want something to connect with me. I want to be connected to something all the time. And the best way of doing that is by having this little kind of AirTaggy thing around your neck. All right, over on the top right-hand side, we've got this article from The Atlantic, which is just from a couple of weeks ago, about the friendship paradox, based on a US kind of audience or data, but it was talking about the fact that a lot of people say they want to do things with their friends. They feel lonely. They feel kind of disconnected. They'd love to do more. And yet that is not how they are spending their time. They're spending their time doom scrolling TikTok and sharing kind of, videos and reels about people hanging out and being friends and having friends, but not actually going through and doing that thing. I kind of think about this as like the initiation gap. Like we have this real problem at the moment around this initiation gap of us kind of wanting something, but feeling a bit too scared to actually initiate the conversation or the suggestion of doing that thing, particularly when it comes to other people and with our friends and things as well. Another bleak example down in the left-hand corner is the Sob Parlor. So Sob Parlor has just opened in New York, of course, where you can go for a little lunchtime cry if you want to. Things are feeling pretty dark that day. You just need to, the work toilets, there's only so many times you can cry in the work toilets. You need somewhere else to go. You need to go and pay some money to go cry somewhere. Off you go to the sob parlor for a little lunchtime grizzle. And then bottom right-hand corner, LA Times article from earlier this year around friendship coaches being on the rise, and people, generally women, generally white, generally a bit more affluent, are paying people to help them make more friends, which again, and all of these are interesting signs of where we are at the moment and the kind of conversation, the zeitgeist around friendship, relationships, love, connection. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the timer. Maybe 1 minute actually, because it's only a quick exercise. All right, 1 minute on the little timer. Which one makes you go ooh or the most? Just one that gives you the biggest reaction. Oh, teleport to a hug would be great, Ollie. All right, we've got the, okay, sob parlor. People are having a reaction to the sob parlor. If anyone feels like they would like to come off mute for, I don't know, whether it's midnight, 5 p.m., 2 a.m., wherever you are, if someone wants to come off mute and tell me why the sob parlor jumped out to you, that'd be amazing. I'd love to hear some reactions.
Just no.
Just no, just
Just
no.
no. Just no.
Yeah.
It's a meme going around.
Mm,
I was born like last year of the 60s, but it's
hmm
basically kids of the 70s and 80s. And one of them says, I died, and my mom told me to get up and, brush it off. A kid now, gets a, a a boo-boo on his finger, or, and, you have to stop, or, back in the day when there was a tornado and you had to go in the hall and put, a book on your head. And today, if it's a high windstorm, they cancel school.
Yeah.
So it's just like sometimes we just need to learn how to emotionally deal with it. With just yeah. And maybe it's the midnight talking in me. I
No,
don't
yeah,
know.
this is fine. And as someone living in Houston, you'll have seen a few high wind days, I would have thought, Joy. Yeah. Awesome. So yes, the sob pilot is kind of jumping out to people, a couple of people on the friendship coaching, a couple of people on the AI friend as well. Awesome. All right, let's click through. Cool. All right. But another really interesting thing to think about when we think about futures thinking and where we are now and where we might go is, how did we get here and where might we be going next? And there's a tool called the Futures Triangle, developed by Sahel Inayatullah, which is really, really useful for thinking about where are we at the moment. And when I use this with clients and teams, it's always really interesting to see whether the most kind of input is on these three points of the triangle. So are people kind of feeling that there is a lot more of the past in where we are now, a lot more of kind of the current zeitgeist, the current kind of things going on, the trends, the social media conversation, or are we seeing more of that kind of the pull of the future, the things that are kind of tickling those edges around what's possible, what might be playing out, what could happen next, the what if? And when we do this, and we're going to do a version of this in a moment together, don't worry, if you're kind of feeling like you want to get into it, you'll have your time very shortly. The point of this is not to think about it in an aspirational sense. So the pull of the future might also be some really dark or some dystopian or some kind of bad things that we might be thinking that might be playing out at the moment. The weight of the past isn't always bad. And I think sometimes people feel like the weight of the past is inherently bad. And sometimes it definitely is, depending on the topic. But often it is what was or is what is. But it isn't necessarily bad. There'll be some good stuff, some bad stuff, some ugly stuff, some stuff in between. And then the present is also an interesting one as well, because often we think, oh, well, actually, is the present a little bit of the future, a little bit of the past? Well, yeah, kind of. So it's less about it's less about getting these things in the right place and more about the conversation. And what I often find with teams, like I said, is that there's often a lot more kind of sticky notes or whatever it is we've been using on the past. And they realize that, oh, actually, we haven't evolved our thinking on this for quite a long time. And again, depending on what the topic is. So I want to think about this in the context of friendships, relationships, etc. And again, playing with these tools of futures thinking in this nice little virtual setting that we've got here. So we're going to play with this other cool scene setup. So we've got the weight of the past here. So it's not quite a triangle. It's more of like a sandwich, I guess. There's three things on top of each other. The future sandwich. I'll let Sahel know that we've renamed it. So the weight of the past, the push of the present, and the pull of the future. So I'd love to know, what is it that you are seeing, have seen? So the weight of the past, what old models, mindsets, references for friendship and connection still exist that we're seeing now? What is the push of the present? What's the current conversation about friendship and connection? And the pull of the future, what are you seeing? What articles are you seeing? What are you reading? What are you writing? What are you hearing in conversations with friends or family about what's next and some interesting ways people are going? I am going to give you 5 minutes to do this. And if you are kind of stuck and you're like, oh, there's a really good one up there, I was going to say the same. The bottom left-hand corner, you should be able to see a little face with a plus. You can upvote or put a little emoji next to a sticky note you see that you like. All right, over to you. You don't all have to start in the past. Feel free to jump around, play around, and I'm going to pop some music on, I think, while we do this. Oh, great. Thank you. So a couple of quick tips for you. Press N for fast sticky note creation. I popped another minute on the timer because there was so many good things going on here. So you've got about 2.5 minutes left. Okay, if you have finished adding stickies and you can have a scroll through, add some, I've seen there's a few little emoji things happening on various sticky notes, which is awesome. Got about 30 seconds or so left. All right, that is time. Very good. All right. There's so many on here. I've been like just grinning away like a funny person, kind of looking at all of these things, adding in. Joy, we need to talk because if you're looking for new friends to travel with, I think I might be your woman. Cool. There was so many things here. Where was the one I was just looking at? Megan or Megan? I'm not sure if whereabouts you are in the world as to how you would pronounce your name. Do you want to would you mind sharing a little bit more around that kind of minimalism piece and the custom and those niche experiences? Either one of those, they sound really, really interesting.
Sure. It is Megan. So
Thank you.
yeah, no problems. Yeah, so I'm noticing that there's this thing where people are looking for someone to do this thing with me, right? And they want to build a relationship around either an activity or a group or some sort of belief system, and they don't need it to be beyond. They don't need that relationship to fulfill any other thing. It's that niche, and so you'll see that on like networking apps, right? And so it's like, I'm looking for a person to do this, or or you go into like networking spaces and I want, and people know what they want. They know what the niche little thing is they're looking for, which is interesting. They're not looking for the blanket, they're looking for that. Yeah, so, and it seems like, oh, this one. Do you want me to talk about this one too, or no? Or was that?
No, that's fine. That's great. Thank you so much. That kind of covers that. That's awesome. Thank you. And I think as well, it's really interesting. I don't know if I saw this on the board at all, but it makes me think as well then about the kind of other sort of trend, or there's been a lot more headlines about kind of non-monogamy and poly kind of relationships as well, and almost that kind of overlap with some of that as well, as people being like, here's all the buckets I need people to fill in my life. Where can I get these ones met by these needs, these needs met by these people, and kind of that combination of people, or that combination people are thinking about everything they want in their life, and being very specific, like you say, about that, and where there's kind of good parts about that because there's intent, but also that kind of feeling that it might be slightly transactional in some ways for some of those things as well. Super, super interesting. Thank you. Let's pick one from, I'm just gonna move my screen around. Let's have a look at Brenton, you've got this piece around the need to connect in real life. Tell us more about this one.
Hey, how you doing, everyone? I'm not sure
Hi.
if you can hear me well because
We
my
can.
internet connection's. Oh, you can.
Yeah, you
Wonderful.
are good.
That's good. I think it might be a bit more relevant to where I am in the world. So I'm in Dubai at the moment, and it's pretty much a work culture where it's really heavy, really busy all the time. And what I'm seeing here, and it's actually spiking a fair bit, is a lot more people going out to active lifestyle communities, people going to hobbies or crafts kind of workshops, and these kind of things are exploding in the area. And it's a way for people to do the activities they want to do at the same time to kind of can do all the things they want, so they're not stressing that they're not doing things. And they're kind of mixing into one, and that's something what I've seen. It's become quite popular here. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, to be honest, but I've been finding it quite interesting to watch, to be honest.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's really good. I sometimes there's a kind of collage workshop place in Melbourne called That Paper Joint. It's very cool. But I often think when I've spent money to go there, I'm like, I've just spent $75 to go and like cut up someone else's magazines. Like it says a lot about where we are again, I think sometimes. So yeah. Cool. I want to pick another one from this kind of where we are at the moment. There was one here I just saw just now. I just love the colors on this as well. Like, good job, Butter Team. Rochelle, tell us about this balancing remote in person, anything that kind of processes relationships, etc.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
I think that, because of the we because of pandemic, we're more into digital and remote work, remote anything. I also noticed with work, we sort of change how we do things, the processes, and how we communicate with one another. And also notice the rise in relationships, like more relationships are born out of digital connection, whereas in the past, for you to meet somebody and to connect, it's like you have to go out there, go out and meet people and maybe find new friendships. But now you can do that online and they will be really great friends. The weight of friendship is the same when you do it face to face. So I think it's very interesting. But now it's like we're also going back to in person. So it's like balancing how to, are we trying to go back to the past where we're doing things in person, or are we going to continue this remote?
And where's that balance, like you say?
Yes,
yeah, that's great.
exactly.
And I wonder as well, like on that note, and I think Jacob had actually put something in here as well around building relationships across countries and digital nomadism as well, that kind of the link to work anywhere and work kind of more in a more hybrid or more remote way as well around. That's also where a lot of people would meet their friends normally, is by having that almost pretty much daily previously interaction with those people. And they might not always have been people you like to want to hang out with all the time, but I'm sure a lot of us have friends and great friends who we worked with at some point as well. All right, let's hear one or two more just from the pull of the future. I would love to hear about Carly. Tell us about there's so many options I want to choose from yours, Carly, as usual, but you pick one of them because there's too many good ones. Like, we want to kind of talk about pets as children or partners, but also about the young people. You pick.
Pets as children and partners. I was thinking, because there was a conversation recently about whether or not you could take leave for pet care, and even whether or not you might be able to get some sort of benefits. At the moment, you can get tax benefits for children, and talking about whether or not in future you would get tax benefits as pets as replacements for children, and really just like slotting that in as maybe not friendship, but anyway, that's one thing. And the other one was, I've got 2 teenage children, and they're definitely having difficulty differentiating between friendships and crushes as the same-sex relationships become the norm in their classes.
That's super interesting. Thank you for sharing. As a very much a childless cat lady, pets is, getting some paternity leave would be does sound like a good idea. And I know people, that's some organizations. There's something that I've did an article a couple of months ago about a couple of organizations. That was one of the benefits they are offering is paternity leave, so paternity leave for people who are who are either adopting a new pet, or their pet has had to sadly leave this world as well. They've had the kind of the grieving piece too, or who have to take their animal to the vet. Let's get one more. There was another one by you, Carly, but the sex dolls replacing partners. That's a whole other conversation. Michelle. Aging and loneliness.
Hi, everyone. I think because I'm getting a bit older now, and I wasn't expecting to. And
you weren't expecting to get older, or you weren't expecting to?
I wasn't expecting to get older.
Okay.
I don't think any of us are we? Until we get there, and then we think, oh shit, what is this? And so I'm just like, I look at my partner's mum at the moment, and even though she's got children and those children have got children, it doesn't seem to matter in our Western sort of societies anyway. There's just this sense of isolation, I think, for older people.
Yeah.
And she lives in the middle of the city, and yet she's still so alone. And so I mean, I don't know, that's not really a signal that I've seen about what's going to happen for them, but I actually know one cute thing that's a present thing is that local high schools come along and visit her at her senior citizens centre, like once a month, and she's got someone she calls her friend, who is like a young boy who's 15, and so that's kind of sweet.
Cute. Yeah, and I think Carly had actually put one on here as well with sort of teen to
Yeah.
Nelly's, the co-locating. I've seen a couple of those models kind of pop up as well, and that feels like that's definitely like more of a signal around some of the changes around intergenerational living and just more community-based living, that we're not segregating older people, disabled people as well, actually how we're kind of integrating people who with disabilities out from maybe being put out into kind of special homes back into sort of broader community as well, and involving them in different ways. So yeah, really cool.
Right now we're looking at buying a house across the road from the one we rent, and it'll be me and my partner and the dog on the ground floor. Yeah. 2 teenage boys upstairs and mother-in-law out the back in an apartment. So yeah.
And I think that that's definitely a signal I'm seeing, is this sandwich generation. So people generally probably in their 40s, 50s, maybe 60s, maybe like 30, that kind of group, who have got aging parents and may also not always have younger people they're looking after as well. Looking at the types of aged care homes and things that they're putting their parents into, or have put their parents or grandparents into, and thinking, don't really fancy that. So they're thinking about different models and different ways of doing that for themselves. And I know I was talking to some people who have been looking at co-living options, and actually a group of friends buying a plot of land, building a bunch of tiny houses on there, and being able to then make the most of kind of getting maybe meals delivered or care kind of provided in that one space as well, and having kind of a more purposeful and designed approach to that. So yeah, super interesting ideas. There's also a place, so a signal I couldn't fit on here because there's so many. There's a place called Co-Ground. I think I got that right, in the UK, in London, of a group of women between the ages of between their 50s and their 90s, who built a house, purpose-built, for them to live in together and look after each other as they all got old or continued to age, which is amazing as well. Oh, here we go. Oh, Co-Ground. Yes, I will find the link. Good. All right, let's move on. So based on all of that, you've just thrown so many kind of interesting things out. And when we're thinking about the future and doing good futures thinking, we don't just want to kind of extrapolate where are we now into the future, because that assumes that the future will look like the past / the present, in terms of what exists, in terms of the mindsets that exist, and all of those types of different things. So what we need to do is go a bit broader and think kind of further out in the cone. And the further out we go in time, the more weird the futures might be that play out. So I'd love to know, from what you've just talked about and from some of the things that are sparking in your mind, maybe it is kind of smushing together some of those things you've just heard from the sticky notes you just put down, or just the things that are going around your mind. But what ridiculous futures might exist in the next, let's say, 10 to 20 years, on how we connect or how we design for connection in our lives, our societies, and our cities? I'm going to put 4 minutes on the clock. And you can upvote these as well. There we go. So you can see, so Michelle has put one on already. So you can see there's a little like smiley face. So again, you can upvote and put little reactions to these. And I'll promise I'll be quiet in a moment, but Michelle's has made me think. So holograms of your overseas mates who've only met online beaming into your living room. Love this idea. This year, I think it was about February or April this year, a woman in Spain actually married a hologram. And that hologram was trained on the data from all of her exes. I have many questions as to why you would want to do this in lots of ways, but we are living in that future. Maybe not evenly distributed just yet, though. All right, I'll be quiet. You can keep putting your ridiculous features in here. Okay, you've got a minute left, and these are all amazing. I'm like chuckling away at some of these. They're amazing. All right, final kind of 10 seconds. Oh, Megan, I love that one. All right, time is up, but do keep typing because I never want these to end. Looking at these are awesome. And so many of these as well that kind of feel ridiculous. There's this really, again, a quote I probably overuse in futures often, but I think is brilliant, and that's why it gets overused, which is a Jim Data quote, which is any good statement about the future should at first appear ridiculous. So if you think about so many of the things that we have access to now or that are currently happening, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly sort of 20 plus years ago, if you told someone that was going to happen, they'd be like, be quiet, that's ridiculous, that never will happen. And yet here we are with people marrying holograms and AI and all of these other things happening. Cheska, yours made me laugh in particular because earlier this year I had a dinner with some friends. It was my 10-year Oziversary, 10 years in Australia. And I had a dinner for 12 of the people who have made my decade. And there was a joke that kind of emerged during that dinner that those are then the platinum status friends. And therefore, whenever any of them kind of have done something like maybe been late for something, they're like, oh, have I been downgraded my status? Am I just a gold level friend now? So, and a couple of them have been awarded Chairman's Lounge kind of access to friendship. So that's, again, I have made that future happen already, Cheska. So it's a great one. I like the portal hangouts. Yes, Shirin, that's a really cool idea with that. Like we had, but maybe with a bit less nudity, maybe. Unfortunately, which did happen when you put something in Dublin and New York. The other thing I really liked, I thought was a really interesting idea, was Carly. Carly, obviously, I don't know what you had to eat before you came to this session, but you've got some quite bleak things in here, which actually I'm very much into. So thank you for coming as our kind of dystopian friend from the future. Tell us about the retreat from the idea of friendships as healthy.
I guess when I'm trying to think of futures, I take something that is at the moment and then I completely flip it. That's the easiest way for me to come up with new ideas. And so that whole thing about you need to have friends to be healthy, it was very easy to flip that round, but it did seem quite ridiculous, and I didn't have to go very far for that. That was an easy win for me.
No, that's good. And the flip, so the fact flip is a technique we use often in futures, as Carly just mentioned. And actually what the best thing to do then sometimes with that is to flip something that is currently true, flip it into something that is the opposite of that, of course, and then to look up to see if that already exists, because that often is the thing that people kind of stop and go, oh, well, that's ridiculous. Sometimes the thing that is most impactful is if we then look it up and be like, oh, wow, that's already happening. That's already here. And that's where we get to have then a really interesting conversation about what's possible. And often when I run this type of thing in organizations, we've all been there. We've all worked in places where nothing kind of feels very possible because there's rules and there's policies and things. So to then find examples of where organizations maybe don't have those rules or don't have those policies or have thought of a different way of doing things really opens up the conversation for teams and leaders and whoever it is you're working with to be able to think a bit more expansively about what is possible, just because it's not their current reality. Okay, good. All right, back to this. Bethan, what would you be teaching at Friendship Boot Camp? What would you want from Friendship Boot Camp?
Well, I suppose I'm seeing lots of stuff around people spending more time on tech, less time in person, so they don't have the social skills to connect in person. So how to initiate conversation. I mean, I already do it with young professionals quite often, like how to start
I bet.
conversation, how to build trust, how to open up. But I wonder if parents would invest in that for their kids, like in the teenage years or something.
Yeah.
So that's really, really sad.
It's really sad. And again, when you think about loneliness, and particularly loneliness in young people and particularly young men as well, like I think there's a role for that type of thing as well. And I know there are versions of that often involve the parents as well, like in Byron, you've got Anna Rubinstein, who runs the rites of passage ritual retreats for parents and their children as well. So there's a kind of versions of that kind of popping up, although maybe with slightly different objectives or slightly different demographics and things. The other thing I've just seen on the Zoom chat, Ollie, thank you for sharing lots of thoughts as you've been going through the currencies as well. And I know that there's a group called Radar who do some amazing work in the futures space. Big up Radar if anyone's watching the recording. I know a couple of you wanted to come, but it's 1 a.m. for you. They're doing a piece at the moment around the future of love. And one of the things they've been talking about is love as infrastructure. And that includes things like how cities are designed and developed, and coming up with some futures that might exist around having public spaces that where friendship is kind of centered rather than romantic relationships or couples and things. So not having people having to pay the sort of singles tax all the time for that. But then also thinking about love as infrastructure for how do we measure success and health and well-being of a city or a community or a country beyond just GDP, which obviously is purely financial and obviously is driving some other decisions that then because that is the metric. Cool. The last one I want to find out about was friendship insurance. Cheska, what are you insuring for? Or what are you insuring against, maybe? Oh, I can't hear you. Your audio is not on.
She's been talking for 17 hours straight,
Yeah.
you know, so 21 hours straight. So don't judge.
Sure. My laptop just wants me to rest at this point.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Or your laptop wants to rest, one of the two.
Yeah, also true. No, I was just I think it's mostly, I think it was more brain mush. It's a bit connected to friendship, where every time something does something to a friend does something to hurt our friendship, like I don't know, flake or not show up for dinner, not text at the right time, I get something. Or I get insured for that.
Yeah, okay, cool. I like it. So rather than if you lose a friend in some way, shape or form, that you get some kind of payout, it's actually if it's your friend having to pay
directly from
friendship insurance. Great. I wonder what the claims process would be like. I'm just imagining the UX of that app where you're putting in a claim against them and they get the pop-up to say Cheska has made a claim. You chose a bad restaurant for dinner. You turned up late again. Yeah.
You're really making this happen already.
Yeah, I know. I'm imagining that. And one of the things that is really cool, if we had a lot more time, we could potentially do, or you can just do in your own spare time, is sometimes when we imagine these futures, a fun thing to do is to actually create an artifact of what might exist in that future. So just using Cheska's example there, we may actually draw out, and we can do it super lo-fi with a pen and a piece of paper. Like, what would the UI look like for that app where we would make the friendship claim, the friendship insurance claim? Or we might draw the car that Brendan is having a hologram road trip with and draw the kind of little holograms in there. So whatever it is, but we get to kind of create these little vignettes into where these futures might exist, and then have a conversation about how do we feel about that future? Like, is it confronting? Is it exciting? Like, what's the good things? What are the bad things? What are the unintended consequences of that? And often that is the missing conversation, is what are the unintended consequences of these things coming into play? So using that friendship insurance example, where might insurance fraud happen? Like, where might people start to do things to either avoid a claim being made or to challenge claims, and maybe making friends with people who maybe are more or less trustworthy as a result, because then they just don't want the admin, the insurance admin of those friendships. Really interesting. Oh, so many good things here. All right, so final thing, I'd love you, since we've talked about some of the friendships that might, the futures of friendship that might play out, I'd just love to know, what are your own friendship rituals at the moment? So pin on the board, pin it anywhere. You can pin on your favorite little friendship duo or trio I've got here, and just have a little share. Like, what are you doing at the moment around your own friendship rituals? We've got a few minutes left, so I'd love to do this for sort of 3 or 4 minutes, and then I've got a couple
I'm
of
just trying to
final
decipher what these rituals are.
Oh, no. These are not the rituals. You're pinning your own ritual. So if you do a little pin, and then a little question will pop up for you, and then you can pin which friendship rituals you already have with your friends. I'd love to know. We just sort of share some of those, but you can pin it on whichever of the friendship duos you are taking to the most. Megan, that's super cool. Craft dates, very cool. And if you haven't already worked it out, if you hover over one of the little other pins that people have put on, you can see other people's little friendship rituals. Mm-hmm. All right, final few seconds. I'm a particular fan. Everyone's loving on the iconic friendship duo that is Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Of course, there is no better friendship. The one that Brenton, there was another interesting Atlantic article recently where they talked about Americans being greedy with their friends and not wanting to merge friendship groups because we have this like fear that your friends will like each other more than they'll like you, because apparently that's how insecure we all are right now. So it was good to see that you are bang on trend with you're now less about merging your friendship groups as well. Maybe not because of that kind of level of deep insecurity, but there we go. I wasn't making a suggestion of your level of security.
No, all good. I think there's also some interesting data around about age groups, and I think it's about the 21 you stop trying. I think I forget the data now, but I think it's the idea is you stop trying new things. You texting less people. You're less about sharing and more containing. And I maybe it's just coming to age trends. Maybe it's just the natural way we kind of grow older.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely something in that as well. Some other good ones here about guys' trips and weekends away and sort of annual trips and things as well. Very cool. Romy, the Wednesday waffles. Oh my God, that is doing the rounds on TikTok at the moment. I am currently, a little plug, I'm writing a book about friendship at the moment. So this is the type of thing I'm looking to gather this information, and I will share a little thing for you to submit your friendship rituals if you'd like to add that. And the amount of people who have sent me the Wednesday waffle TikTok is, if I had $1, I would no longer need to work for how many times I've been sent that particular TikTok. But it's a very cool idea. I like P, you've got the checking your mental state with your friend, sharing what you've learned recently. Very cool. Megan, this getting together with a friend to write your novels, very productive. I'm very impressed. This is very good. And then there was one more I wanted to pull out. Where did it go? Oh, the check-in boost. So Ollie, that's really nice. That kind of, I was thinking you because, and sort of you're creating some drawings. Very cute. All right. So little final quote from one of my favorites, artists, Brits, humans. Tomorrow belongs to those who hear it coming. And I think this is really your invitation to look out of your normal kind of bubbles of either people you follow on social media or things that you often read or follow, just to have a look and go, what else is happening out in the world? Have some different conversations with maybe the person sat next to you on a plane. I did that just last week. The poor guy, he was probably very, very upset that we got grounded for 3 hours on the tarmac at Melbourne. And he was sat next to me. I was like, I'm writing a book about friendship. Tell me about your friends. He was like, oh God. Anyway, middle seat, that's the problem. You get the middle seat, you might be sat next to me. Anyway, but having these conversations is really interesting, and it might help us get over that kind of curiosity gap, but also maybe that initiation gap of being able to initiate something with our friends in our lives as well, or maybe making a new friend. There are other ways of doing this and thinking about this, and obviously thinking about the fact that, yes, the future, there are elements of that we can't control, we have less control on, but we do actually have a lot of agency when it comes to things like our friendships, our relationships, and how we're connecting with others and how we're choosing to spend time with other people. So I invite you all to think about that, to add a bit more design, a bit more intent, a bit more creativity into your relationships and your friendships, and think about what it could look like next and where we might need that more in the next couple of decades, because I think it's probably fair to say we're going to need each other more than ever over the next into the future. So hopefully I will see you in the future and we will continue to be friends. There's a little QR code here. The team have also popped a little thing in the Zoom chat as well. There's my bento link where you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can also contribute to the book. If you've got a friendship ritual you would like to share and you would like to contribute to the book, I would love to hear it and see it and include it. And yeah, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn or any of the other places that you can find me. Thank you so much for joining, especially if it is midnight or 5 p.m. on a Friday, wherever you are. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. Yeah, I've just dropped the links in the comments, and Jacob has also dropped the link, and so has Jessica. But Megan's links, if you want to connect, is in my message. You can scroll a little bit up. And then please also support us in our product launch, Product Hunt, which is Butterseed. Butterseed, the tool we've been using throughout the workshop with all the activities that Megan designed there. Thank you so much for attending and participating.
It's Steph, but Megan, we should also connect with Megan as well.
Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm reading somewhere else.
I mean,
okay.
Megan put some great stuff in the content, so yeah, we should also.
Okay, but everybody, maybe you can unmute to say thanks to Steph, and then or just say it in the chat. But thank you for a great
Thank you. Keep shining.
Thank you, and thank you
Steph,
to Team Butter. Well done, Butter. Yay, Butter.
Woo! Thank you, everyone. It was awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Wish you were going to Dubai, Steph. We'll see you next time.
See ya. See you, Joy. Thank you. Thanks for joining.